Hey! Recently I rewatched the movie Dune, and the moment when the Sardaukars were chanting their pre-battle chant was something that really stood out to me. What did you feel when you first heard this chant? Many people online expressed a sense of mysterious and psychedelic feel, and everyone in the cinema just suddenly shut up when they heard this unearthly noise. So, what exactly about this sound that feels so unearthly and unsettling? Many of you might already know that this sound comes from throat singing, which is an ancient singing technique from Inner Asia. But why does it get coded as strange and otherworldly in Hollywood when it's actually about harmony with nature? In fact, this sound is also used in other Hollywood movies to express similar sentiments of otherworldliness, such as in Avatar. In Star Wars. As you see, this sound is primarily used for aliens because of its bizarre and phantasmal quality, and you can feel it before you understand it. Actually, all of these sounds that evoke this strange sense of feeling has to do with one thing: timbre. Now, don't confuse timbre with timbre here. Timbre is the tone color of sound that distinguishes different instruments or voices. You can understand it as the personality of sound that gives it a unique quality. Once you understand the importance of timbre, you'll know why the Sardaukar chant feels so mysterious. You will also learn a different way of listening, where you listen for the hidden frequencies within the timbre that open up to an invisible and ever-changing world of vibrations. You'll understand the science of throat singing and why the Sardaukar chants sound particularly similar to it, and also Tibetan Buddhist chants, and why does it evoke in you a similar sense of otherworldliness and reverence. Welcome to Wild Wata Explains, a channel dedicated to music knowledge produced by real humans. I'm DJ Wild Wata. Today's topic is on the otherworldly timbre in the Sardaukar chant. Let's start from the story of an igil player from Tuva. A small country between Mongolia and Russia in Central Asia, where throat singing originates from. The igil musician's name is Sardaukar Chant. In 2003, he was being recorded for the first time by Tuva's leading musicologist, Valentina Suzuki. When they were done, Valentina said to him, "Now don't play anything in particular, just bow the open strings so that I can record their pitches." And he played both of the igil's two strings together. Valentina said, "No, play them individually. I have to write down the tuning of the instrument." And again, he played them together. Valentina must have asked him 5 times, and always there was the same response. Finally, he got angry and said, "You're a strange girl. Go drink some tea and I'm gonna have a smoke." And with that, he got up and left. As Valentina sipped her cold tea, she was also angry. She wondered, why is he so stubborn? All I was trying to do was figure out the pitch of each string. Is it that hard to play one string at a time? It was only later that Valentina understood the significance of this little episode. In her formal musicological training, they were taught to record the range, register, and tuning of an instrument. For example, on the guitar, this string is tuned to E, and this one to G, and so on. But she learned from the igil player that the absolute pitch of the strings meant nothing to him. What's important is the relative pitch between the two strings, their intervals. And more importantly, he didn't hear these strings as separate pitches, but as part of one total sound. In other words, pitch was subordinate to timbre. How high or low a note is matters less than the personality or the specific quality of the tone. When you listen to a song, what do you usually focus on? For most people, it's probably the melody where you could memorize and sing along. But for the igil player, His way of listening is entirely different from what we have in cultures where the focus is on melody. Instead, he focuses on the timbre. This timbre-centered listening is also the foundation of throat singing. We already know that timbre is the personality of a tone. But where does that personality come from? When you hear a note, such as this G string, what you're actually hearing is not just the note itself, but a whole set of frequencies that naturally existed within the note. Different parts of the string move by different amounts. The middle moves the most, and this vibration produces the pitch G. Sections farther away move less, and near the ends, the string barely moves at all. Together, these motion patterns produce the other frequencies within a note, and these other frequencies layered inside a single note are known as overtones. In throat singing, performers learn to bring these overtones forward. They're called overtones because they existed over and above the fundamental frequency. These higher frequencies are usually much quieter, so we may not notice them individually, but they're what defines a sound's timbre. Their presence, distribution, and amplitude shape the personality of the tone. Just like a person's personality comes from their natural presence, the distribution of their interests, and their amplitude, how loud or quiet that person is. Now, I've spent some time on overtones and timbre because they shape the personality of the Sardaukar chant. The mystery you hear comes precisely from its timbre, shaped by the overtones. But this mysterious feeling doesn't just come from the Sardaukar chant's timbre, where we passively perceive and label as otherworldly. Instead, it also comes from us, the listeners, when we shift our focus to timbre just like the guild player. It's like when you're sitting at a park, you hear many sounds all at the same time. Dogs barking, birds chirping, children's voices, the wind's whistle, that your normal perception of sound is multi-layered. If you listen to the Sardaukar chant, it can completely fill the sonic space. But it doesn't do so through the use of melody, harmony, and counterpoint, which are traditional tools of Western European music. Instead, every moment of sound opens up to a whole universe, and we're hit with a multi-layered sonic experience. This type of timbre-centered listening plays with our perception. We're no longer listening for the melody in the foreground. Instead, we're listening to the sound's quality in the background. So the chant acts as a trigger in our brain. It shifts how we listen, and that shift changes how we feel, and we attribute that strange sensation back to the sound itself. The same phenomenon happens in throat singing, the Tibetan Buddhist chants, or even Zimbabwean Mimbira music, where people attach bottle caps on the Mimbira to produce a buzzing timbre to make the sound multi-layered and to trigger a timbre-centered listening experience. So the simplest answer to our question why the Sardaukar chant sounds so weird and otherworldly is timbre-centered listening. But timbre describes a general sense of the sound's quality, not a specific type. So the question becomes, what type of timbre most powerfully triggers this timbre-centered way of listening? Well, to answer that, we'll need to trace the Sardaukar chant back to its original source, throat singing. The artist who voiced the Sardaukar chant in Dune is Michael Geiger. He explains that he drew on techniques from the Tuvan Kagura tradition as well as subharmonic techniques found in Tibetan chants, which we will come back to in a moment.
The throat singing thing didn't really happen for me until I had to audition as the throat singer for a movie called The Nun. And at that time, I was still just working out the Kargira sound, which is the sound that I'm really interested in.
But throat singing isn't an isolated phenomenon. Rather, it trains a particular way of listening for timbre, texture, and overtones rather than melody alone. You can understand it as a new technology of listening. In Tuvan music culture, the same listening logic is built into their instruments. The igil and the jal harp, for example, are designed to produce special sounds that invite timbre-centered listening. Igil players don't press the string all the way down like on a violin or cello. Instead, they touch the string lightly to bring out overtones. If you play violin or cello, you may recognize that this technique as flageolet or harmonics. But on Western string instruments, you have to touch designated points on the string for this technique to work best. In contrast, on an igil, you can touch almost anywhere along the instrument to produce this overtone-rich sound. You can also vary the tension of the bow by tightening or relaxing the fingers to sharpen or soften the sound, continuously reshaping the timbre. Both the string and the bow are strung with horsehair rather than metal or gut. These organic strings vibrate irregularly, so the result is less clean and less bright, but packed with rich overtones. That's exactly what Western string players don't want, because Western instruments value a sound that's clear, unified, and focused. On the igil, though, these irregular overtones add depth and color, giving it a distinctive and expressive personality that draws the ear toward the timbre. So at the level of instrument design and physics, the igil trains the ear toward timbre-centered listening, creating an entirely different experience of hearing sound. Have you heard this sound before? This is the jal harp, another instrument used by Inner Asian pastoralist cultures. Like the igil, it's designed to maximize timbral complexity and invite timbre-centered listening. A famous jal harp player, Idam Chant, once said, "You can't make sounds on a jal harp whose tongue is broken." What he meant was that before you can produce overtones, you first have to produce a drone. This works very differently from instruments such as the bagpipe, where one pipe produces the drone and the other plays the melody. Or the sitar, where the drone strings and the melody strings are physically separate. On the jal harp, the drone and the melody come from the same source, the V-shaped metal tongue, where the narrow end is held against the teeth to produce the drone. So what you hear is a multi-layered timbre, where the overtones and the drone form an integral whole. Now listen back to the Sardaukar Chant. Can you hear the drone? The grainy, low growl, and the overtones, the buzzing, layered texture of the voice. And your attention can move between the buzz, the growl, the words, and the flow. It's like a 3D stereogram. I don't know if any of you still remember these. They're quite popular 30 years ago when I was a child. Well, if you relax your eyes and stop focusing on the surface, a hidden image suddenly appears. This is just like timbre-centered listening. When you stop focusing only on the melody or words and shift your attention to timbre, an entirely new, layered sonic world opens up. Now we have our first layered answer to why the Sardaukar chant sounds so otherworldly. It's because the sound is shape-shifting from drone to overtones to the chant. As our attention moves between these layers, our perception keeps reorganizing. That instability creates a strange perception, and we experience it as the sound's otherworldliness. This is just the first layer of the answer to our question, why the Sardaukar chant feels so otherworldly. In the next episode, I'll get into the second layer, the natural environment this sound comes from, the open grasslands, nomadic life, and the connection to the spirit world. Stay with me, subscribe to Balm City Hall.